only know June Carter by way of her famous husband, classic country superstar Johnny Cash. But this look at her tumultuous life is proof that even the most famous love stories come with misery. In 2003, June Carter Cash went into the hospital with hope. But when she came out, it all went horribly, horribly wrong. Settle in and join us as we take a look at the life of June Carter Cash. Born in Virginia in 1929, Carter's family life already revolved around music when she came into the picture. Her mom, aunt, and uncle sang in a band called the Carter Family. By 10 years old, Carter became a regular singer with the band, but her career didn't start to form until her mother made an unusual decision. When the Carter family's run ended, Carter's mom moved forward with a band made up of herself and her daughters. At the time, her actions appeared very bold. Women didn't go into business for themselves, especially in country music, but she did it anyway, and with that came Carter's shining moment. Carter and the family band became a staple of the country music of the era. By the early 1950s, Carter started to build a bit of a solo career. She had success with songs like Jukebox Blues and No Swallow in Place. Unfortunately, just as she started to get her footing, her first bout with love came along to derail her. Carter met country singer Carl Smith at the Grand Ole Opry in the early 1950s, and as you might imagine, the two made quite a pair, reportedly becoming a country-it couple right away. The two married in 1952 and continued their career together, singing duets and appearing as the perfect couple. But things behind the scenes looked much different. According to their first and only daughter, the two didn't spend much time together at home. Reportedly, Smith imagined a more traditional marriage where his new wife focused on homemaking. Carter saw things differently, though, and hoped to continue her career. In his own estimation of the relationship, Smith told his daughter, "Your mama never loved me. She loved the idea of me." Either way, things came to an end after only 4 years of marriage. During the 1950s, the Carters continued their work as a family group and began touring with Elvis Presley. They became close friends, and Presley reportedly helped comfort Carter and care for her daughters during the divorce. But knowing the reputation of the king of rock and roll, it's possible something much less innocent took place. According to Carter, her relationship with Presley never crossed into more romantic territory. But by her own daughter's report, she always got a bit sheepish when asked about their relationship. Neither ever confirmed a romantic liaison, but perhaps that had more to do with someone Presley greatly admired than the actual truth. June Carter first met Johnny Cash in 1956, the year she divorced Smith. The two already knew of each other. Cash listened to the Carter family regularly, and Presley adored Cash's music and loved to talk about him. Even with all that background, though, Carter only remembered one thing from their first meeting. Carter never admitted it, but you can be the judge of whether or not she fell in love at first sight. She and Cash spoke briefly at their first meeting, recalling the things they already knew about each other. But after the fact, Carter said she only remembered those black eyes that shone like agates. That being said, her next move was downright shocking. Carter married police officer Edwin Nix in 1957. There's not much detail surrounding their courtship other than its brevity. They dated for only 1 year before actually tying the knot. But another major career change probably played a far bigger role in their overshadowed love story. In the early 1960s, Carter boasted a pretty well-known name in the country world. As such, she received a special invitation in 1961 for a regular singing gig on a variety show. However, around that same time, Cash offered her the chance to tour with him for a payment of $500 a week. You get one guess on what she chose. If you didn't forget about the agate eyes, it's no surprise that Carter chose to tour with Cash over the variety show. Things started getting sticky right away. Despite Cash's marriage to his own first wife and Carter's marriage to Nix, The two grew very close as they toured together. Carter still put up the very best fight she could, supposedly. While his music rocketed him to superstar status, Cash struggled with his own vices behind the scenes. He married Vivian Liberto in 1954, but he cheated on her multiple times. Even worse than his crumbling relationship, though, Cash grappled with an addiction to drinking and substance abuse. It leaked into every part of his life. While touring with Carter, Cash seemed to reach a peak in his dangerous habits. Things got so bad that he even canceled concerts while simply failing to show up at others. He also started getting in trouble with the law. The situation seemingly drew Carter to Cash even more. And if you're wondering why, a quick walk down memory lane might explain her obsession. While she managed to keep this detail on the low for most of her career, Carter experienced her own issues with substances. It started back in the 1950s when another famous country singer, Patsy Cline, got her into amphetamines. She allegedly struggled with using it for the rest of her life. Even so, she somehow became essential in Cash's decision to finally change his ways. Carter fully committed to saving Cash from himself. While they toured, she took it upon herself to literally search for his pills, throwing them all away once she found them. She stayed close to him, even encouraging her daughters to pray for him. And a few years into working with him, she found a roundabout way of confessing her true feelings. In the early 1960s, Carter co-wrote the song Ring of Fire. In the song, she calls love a burning thing and compares the act of falling in love to falling into a literal ring of fire. She didn't fess up until years later, but she did ultimately admit to writing the song about falling for Cash. The song blazed up to #1 on the charts and continues to be a classic country staple. But the most notable fire burned between Cash and Carter. In 1966, Cash's wife finally filed for divorce. She credited his risky lifestyle, as well as his repeated unfaithfulness, as her reason for finally ending the marriage. She also noted his close relationship with Carter as one of her reasons. How close did they actually get before the divorce? Perhaps the timing of Carter's own divorce can provide an explanation. Carter and her second husband also divorced in 1966. The details surrounding the decision are scarce, but at this point it seems obvious. Either way, it didn't take too long for them to make things official. In 1968, Cash performed at a packed concert hall in London, Ontario. He popped the question in front of thousands of fans, and Carter said yes. They married just a few weeks after that, and they lived happily ever after. Kidding, obviously. Let's just say Shakespeare got it right when he wrote, "The course of true love never did run smooth." Neither Cash nor Carter came into the marriage without their issues. Though in recovery, Cash still dealt with the repercussions of his substance issues. Even more than that, he brought in 4 daughters from his previous marriage, adding Carter's reputation of 2 failed marriages and her own 2 daughters. And it seemed a recipe for disaster. Her new stepdaughters did everything but welcome her with open arms. Carter's own daughter looked forward to having more sisters, but Cash's children shunned their new stepmother in the beginning. They accepted her after a while, especially as they welcomed a new baby brother. But that didn't even turn out to be the biggest challenge. As if dealing with their complicated past and family didn't make things hard enough, the new couple also faced life as a high-profile celebrity couple. Their marriage likely became fodder for gossip, exerting even more pressure on an already difficult situation. But things got even worse when an old enemy came back to haunt them. Just a little over a decade into their marriage, Cash started using heavily once again. Varied reports suggest Carter continued to use herself, but it seemed her struggle didn't stack up against Cash's. Their children remember them arguing daily. Things got so bad that Carter ultimately felt she couldn't go on anymore. Despite their long love story and dedication to each other, Johnny Cash's issues drove a wedge between the two singers. Friends recalled her blatantly saying that she loved him deeply, but might still leave him if things didn't change. Things eventually did change, though it took one horrifying incident to inspire Cash to get better. During one substance-induced haze, Cash reportedly nearly lost his life when he unexpectedly stopped breathing. That scare, along with an intervention his family staged, reportedly pushed him to go to rehab. Cash finished his time and kicked the habit, returning to his family sober. And despite the dark days, they still enjoyed many stunning successes. Throughout their time together, both before and after their marriage, Carter and Cash made several songs together. All scandals aside, country fans adored the music they made. Their music regularly topped country charts, and they won 2 Grammy Awards together over the span of their joint career. They grew in both fame and wealth, and when they seemed to get their fill of making money, they made a point of giving back. Carter and her husband donated regularly to SOS Children's Villages, an organization centered on helping children. Even before that, though, they gave money to help orphans in Jamaica near the home they owned there. All things considered, their life seemed like a happy one. But things didn't always feel that way for Carter. Carter worked in music long before she met Cash, and though she never achieved the fame he did, she gave her own notable contribution to country music. But as some critics note, she ended up living her life in the shadow of her iconic hubby. Considering her love for him, maybe that didn't bother her, or maybe she held on to the parts of her that didn't concern him. Back in the late 1950s, Carter tried her hand at a very different art form: acting. On the advice of a director who saw her perform her musical comedy bit, she took some classes to sharpen her acting skills. She didn't end up acting much, but luckily for her, she did just enough. When the right opportunity came along, she was ready. In 1997, she landed her most memorable film role in The Apostle. She worked with award-winning actor Robert Duvall, whom she greatly admired. Though she didn't boast a long line of credits, her friends said she held this particular opportunity close to the heart. But even so, she never strayed too far from her first love: music. Overall, Carter's career with her third husband is much more well-known than her solo career. But she never stopped making music. She released a total of 3 solo albums, including one that her son released after her passing. And although Cash did perform on her final 2 albums, she ultimately received recognition for her own work. Carter won a total of 3 Grammys for her solo albums, bringing her count to an impressive 5 spanning her entire career. In 2003, Country Music TV listed her as one of the 40 greatest women of country music. Her daughters remembered her working and creating music right to the very end, which came in a most unexpected manner. Seemingly against everything within her, sickness finally forced Carter to slow down when doctors diagnosed her with a leaky heart valve in 2003. They insisted she needed surgery to survive. She accepted their prognosis and prepped for surgery just weeks after the diagnosis. Tragically, something went terribly wrong. Reports claim that some unexpected complications came up during her surgery. She didn't last very long after it, passing on May 15, 2003. Her family, friends, and fans all mourned her passing, saying their final goodbyes at a public funeral. Considering what happened next, anyone who doubted her and Cash's love story had to eat their words. Their children remembered Cash's struggle to handle his own grief at Carter's funeral. Through all their ups and downs, Carter never truly left him. He himself realized his own favor and called her the object of my desire, the #1 earthly reason for my existence. Unfortunately, judging by his own passing, he hit that a little too squarely on the nose. Almost 4 months after Carter passed, Cash followed. Technically, issues with his diabetes ultimately brought an end to his life. But if you ask me, it's a classic case of a broken heart. Without the love of his life with him, Cash likely just lost his own desire to keep pushing forward. Somehow, there was another tragedy just around the corner. A devastating blow hit Carter's remaining family in October 2003. Carter's daughter, Rosie Nix Adams, died on a bus in Montgomery County, along with the bluegrass musician Jimmy Campbell. The horrifying cause? Accidental carbon monoxide poisoning. Nix Adams was only 45 years old and came to rest near her mother and stepfather in the Hendersonville Memory Gardens. However, the musical family's legacy lived on in more ways than one. All three of Carter's biological children followed in her footsteps. Her first daughter, Carlene, earned Grammy nominations for her country music. Her second, Rosie, performed with the Carter's family and on the Johnny Cash Show. Her final child, and only one with Cash, John, enjoys a successful career as a musician and producer. But that wasn't all. In 2005, a film based on the life and love of Carter and Cash, Walk the Line, debuted. The film itself did well. It succeeded at the box office, and critics gave the performances overwhelmingly positive reviews. It went on to earn a Golden Globe. Although it didn't always show them in the best of light, the film did manage to capture the love between Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash. She may have married one of the most famous country musicians of all time, but her contributions to music and immense talents earned her her time in the spotlight. If you enjoyed this fact-naked video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories. Want to stay in who we cover next? Join our membership program through the link in the description for exclusive perks. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.